The Alien franchise has left a lasting impact on the history and future of cinema. But with prequels and sequels expanding the original story across decades, it's become increasingly difficult to follow the entire narrative. So what is the Alien saga really about? Let's break it down. The story begins with a proto-human on Earth consuming a deadly liquid that dissolves his body into strands of DNA, which disperse into the water. Millions of years later, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw believes she's found an invitation and a map pointing to a planet where these proto-humans originated. She refers to them as the Engineers and mistakenly believes they want to meet their human descendants. Shaw and her scientific team are funded by the Weyland Corporation to travel to the planet LV-223 in search of these beings. After overcoming multiple obstacles, they arrive, only to discover the Engineers are long dead. Inside their ancient spacecraft are canisters filled with a black viscous liquid, highly toxic and biologically reactive. They're connected to oval pods that begin to open in the presence of life. Shaw does find the creators she's been searching for, but her lifelong passion borders on obsession. What she uncovers is that the Engineers had once set a course for Earth, intending to wipe out the very species they helped create. They never got the chance. The Engineers themselves were annihilated by constantly evolving neomorphs, the predecessors to the Xenomorphs seen later in the series. A megalomaniacal android named David assumes the role of a creator and infects the human crew with the black liquid. Big things have small beginnings. Amid destruction and chaos, and after a hostile encounter with a surviving engineer, David escapes with Shaw to the Engineers' homeworld. Shaw is now driven by a new obsession, understanding why the Engineers wanted humanity destroyed. Could it have been greed, one of mankind's greatest flaws, that drove the Engineers to this decision? That same obsessive greed is mirrored in Peter Weyland's quest for immortality, which leads him to create David, an android who eventually surpasses his creator and becomes the architect of the xenomorphs we know. If you've ever suspected that human behavior might lead to the downfall of the universe, you're not wrong. Shaw never reaches the Engineers' planet. David kills her and unleashes the black liquid onto the thriving world, eradicating its population. He begins cultivating xenomorph eggs and sends out a signal, hoping to lure new life forms to what he now considers his domain. Years later, the colony ship Covenant embarks on a mission to Aurigae 6, one of the few habitable planets known in the universe. On board is a full ecosystem, including hundreds of colonists in cryosleep. When the crew awakens and detects a signal from an unknown planet, they decide to investigate, deviating from their course. Much of the Alien narrative revolves around humans terraforming distant planets, as Earth has either become or is becoming uninhabitable. Climate change and warfare forced the privileged few to escape Earth, many willingly spending decades in cryosleep to reach new worlds. If not for these colonizing efforts, the xenomorph might never have found the ideal host it needed to evolve. Thanks to David. David begins designing a new version of the xenomorph, a perfect organism, which he tests on the Covenant crew. Among them is Walter, an upgraded android, created to be a loyal companion and protector to humans. He views David as flawed and dangerous. When David learns the ship carries hundreds of colonists, a battle ensues over who will control the future of the species. David ultimately wins. And with that, we begin to understand why the Engineers wanted to erase their creation. Just like their predecessors, humans have played God, creating synthetic life with devastating consequences. David's God complex is a reflection of Weyland's ambitions. And now, David has crafted his own monster. In this future, android technology mirrors the emotional evolution of humanity. David and Walter are android clones with distinct personalities and purposes. David was a singular creation, meant to match Weyland's intellect and curiosity, his closest approximation to a son. He is the closest thing to a son I will ever have. But David is not human. He will never grow. He will never die. Walter, in contrast, was designed as a caretaker, protector, and moral companion. By the time the events of Alien begin, 16 years have passed since David and the Covenant were last seen. The rescue crew of the Nostromo responds to a distress signal from planet LV-426, despite lacking proper rescue equipment. Too late, Ellen Ripley realizes the signal isn't a cry for help, it's a warning. But by then, one crew member, Kane, has already been infected by a facehugger. Ignoring quarantine protocols, Kane is brought aboard, allowing the Xenomorph to wreak bloody havoc. The company has embedded an android named Ash within the crew, who receives a secret directive: bring the creature back alive, no matter the human cost. Though far less advanced than David or Walter, Ash is still a threat, especially under corporate command. When Ripley and the crew discover the truth, they take matters into their own hands, hunting the creature and eventually destroying it. Ripley emerges as one of cinema's most iconic survivors, perfectly balancing strength, vulnerability, professionalism, and competence. Though dismissed at first, she never backs down from the truth. In the end, she and the ship's cat, Jonesy, are the sole survivors, entering hypersleep and awaiting rescue. Interestingly, Jonesy acts as a silent alarm throughout the story, often sensing the alien's presence before anyone else. Like Ripley, he's ignored, at first. The cat survives longer than any human character in the series, aside from Ripley herself. You'd think that a creature as deadly and malevolent as the Xenomorph would be immediately exterminated, especially when it's capable of wiping out entire planets. But corporate greed overrides reason. Opportunists continue trying to profit from the alien at the expense of others. You sent them there and you didn't even warn them. Why, Burke? Human ambition, obsession, violence, and betrayal is a recurring theme. Few women appear in the Alien saga, but they are the ones who consistently challenge and resist these destructive impulses. When Aliens begins, Ripley has been in hypersleep for 57 years. She awakens to discover her daughter has died in her absence. She is asked to return to LV-426 with a military crew aboard the Sulaco. After contact with the colony, Hadley's hope is lost. Haunted by PTSD, her grief deepens when she's dismissed, yet again by those unwilling to take the alien threat seriously. If even one of those things gets down here, then all this bullshit that you think is so important, you can kiss all that goodbye. On LV-426, Ripley and the team discover the colony has become a xenomorph nest. Everyone has been used as an incubator, except for one survivor, a young girl named Newt. She's the same age Ripley's daughter was when Ripley left Earth. Instantly, Ripley becomes her protector. When the military crew realizes Ripley's warnings were accurate, they attempt to evacuate. But once again, corporate interests sabotage their efforts. Burke attempts to smuggle a specimen for profit. He fails. Ripley survives, along with Newt, Hicks, Jonesy, and the severed android Bishop, who, unlike Ash, exhibits empathy and loyalty. Revealing Ripley's daughter had died explains her fierce protectiveness of young women throughout the saga. Even in Alien, Resurrection, as a human xenomorph hybrid, she displays a maternal instinct, protecting the android call and weeping as she kills the monstrous offspring she never wanted. After the events of Aliens, Ripley's ship crashes on the penal colony Fury 161. Only she and a xenomorph survive. She soon discovers the creature infected her with an embryo before the crash. Wayland Yutani, having learned of the embryo, sends a team led by Michael Bishop, a man modeled after the Bishop android. Ripley knows she can't trust them. She sacrifices herself by leaping into molten steel, ensuring the creature dies with her. Despite her ultimate sacrifice, Resurrection continues the story 200 years later. Military scientists, eager to weaponize the xenomorph, clone Ripley using DNA extracted from Fury 161. The result is a hybrid with acidic blood, green-tinted features, and fragmented memories of the original Ripley. The creature they've bred is more intelligent and understands human language. A crew from the ship Betty arrives with human cargo intended for breeding more xenomorphs. Among them is the android Call, whose mission is to destroy the hybrid before she can produce a queen. She fails, but reveals the continued evolution of androids into nearly human figures. Ripley gives birth to a grotesque hybrid offspring that sees her as its mother. When it kills the queen, Ripley is forced to destroy it before the ship crashes into Earth, and at last Ripley returns home. I'm a stranger here myself. Even before the prequels introduced the neomorph, the creature had evolved physically and intellectually across every installment. In Alien Covenant, it's made clear. David is the father of the xenomorph we recognize today. The black liquid, cultivated by the engineers, was a bioweapon, designed to mutate any host. That's why we see different versions of the creature throughout Prometheus and Covenant. The final form, the alien, is a perfect killing machine, and one of humanity's greatest lessons left unlearned. They should have been left alone. They can't be tamed, only destroyed.